Okay, so welcome to session 2 of Mindfulness Now. So today's session is building upon what we did last week in session 1. If you remember, we looked into what is mindfulness. If you remember John Kabat-Zinn's definition, one of the originators of mindfulness, especially around well-being, and that was paying attention on purpose to the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if our lives depended upon it. So it's learning to bring our attention, our minds into this present moment and almost being with whatever's happening in the moment without being lost and engaged with those things that typically come from the past or worries about the future. So it's really about learning to manage your mind so it stays present in the here and now, because when we are in the here and now, when our minds and our bodies are aligned, we can think more clearly, we get access to different parts of the brain that might have been obscured when we were in a worrying fight, flight, freeze mindset, and so we could be more effective in our lives, come up with solutions that may have been lost. Having said all of that, this course is really about mindfulness, about teaching you how to access that state of mindfulness. And obviously there are positive side effects, which I just mentioned, greater resilience, greater clarity, greater focus, greater creativity, and even greater sense of fun. So they're the side effects, but this course is really focused on developing our ability to be in the here and now. Now, what we did, we also went through the 7 attitudes of mindfulness: non-judgment, acceptance, letting go, trust, patience, non-striving, and beginner's minds. There were 7 attitudes which John Kabat-Zinn said would be helpful to develop a more mindful perspective. And the way they do that is by giving us a lens through which we can look at the world. Normally we react automatically to what happens. Mindfulness, and what John Kabat-Zinn said, was that by stepping back, being more present, being more of an observer of what's happening, then we develop that ability to be more mindful, and those 7 attitudes support that. If you think about it, when we are non-judgmental, whatever arises, by being non-judgmental, we no longer engage with what arises as good or bad or neutral. We just observe as non-judgmental. So that already starts to develop that mindfulness perspective, along with acceptance, letting go, trust, patience, non-striving, and beginner's mind. And in addition to that, gratitude and generosity. And after we explored those 7 attitudes, we then had to see how they fitted into our lives, our understanding of them. We then went on and did a sitting meditation where we focused on our breath. Just a very simple practice on focusing on our breath, because our breath is always in the moment. We can't breathe in the past, we can't breathe in the future. We might have breathed in the past and we might breathe in the future, but the only place that mindfulness or breath is actually happening is in the here and now. So we use that as an anchor to focus our minds on what's happening in the here and now. So that was a very simple meditation, very powerful meditation. It was the first step on a journey to learning to keep our minds in the present moment. And from that perspective, maybe looking at the past or the future, but having this as a primary perspective. We then went on to looking at formal and informal mindfulness. There's 2 different types. There's the formal mindfulness, is where you take yourself out of everyday life and do a meditation, maybe like that breathing meditation. So that's called formal mindfulness. So we step outside of life and practice. It's a bit like going to the gym. we do a workout away from our everyday life. Whereas informal mindfulness is what we do during our everyday, as part of our everyday living, embedding mindfulness practice into our everyday so that it develops in the context of our lives. A bit like if we go after work, if we have to cycle or walk to work, that's part of our everyday, and we're building fitness through that as part of our daily activities. So informal mindfulness is about doing mindfulness practice as part of our everyday. For example, mindfully brushing our teeth, mindfully drinking our coffee, and being fully present with that activity. So that's the difference between formal and informal. And the final thing we looked at was the difference about the fact that we run on automatic. Part of us has to run on automatic. Our hearts have to beat, we have to breathe, we have behaviors that we do automatically. They're all very useful, but there'll be also some reactions because of past programming that happen automatically. So mindfulness is a way of interrupting that automatic behavior. It doesn't mean that we don't do that behavior, but it introduces a way of being more choiceful about taking that behavior, so it puts us back in control. And to demonstrate that, we did that arm fold exercise where we folded our arms automatically as we'd normally do, and then we were encouraged to do it in a different way and notice what the difference was. And often the new way felt awkward. We had to think about it. So mindfulness, this practice is really about folding our arms differently, and after a while it becomes a new automatic behavior, but a behavior that's really helpful, puts us back in control, and gives us back our lives. If you remember, Jon Kabat-Zinn said, as if our lives depended upon it, because we are really just alive in this moment. So yeah, just bring us back our lives. So that's what we did last week, and we'll be just building upon that, giving you other meditations, other insights to start focusing our attention on the present moment, so we can be more in control and maybe even have the lives that we want. Okay, let's move on to our first meditation of this session. This is called body scan meditation. This is where we start to move our minds, our awareness more choicefully to different parts of our body. So it's really, once again, training our minds to be non-automatic, so they move to where we choose to be. And in this exercise, we'll be moving our minds to various parts of the body, so developing that ability to choose where we are rather than being automatically dragged into the past or the future. So I'm going to invite you all to do this mindfulness meditation, this body scan. So just allow yourselves just to get nice and comfortable, feet on the ground, nice upright back if you're sitting down, or you can obviously lie down doing it as well. And I'll begin. So let's start by noticing the weight of our body and how it feels on a chair or on a mat, whatever's right for you. Now continue to notice the feeling of sitting or lying, and each time you exhale, imagine yourself sinking a little deeper into a really comfortable state. So you just take a moment to do that now. And as with other meditations, it's quite normal for your attention to wander away from your breath and body occasionally. Don't be concerned when this happens. just gently lead your awareness back to your body scan. So if your mind wanders, just bring it back to your body scan. Now you can close your eyes if you prefer, leave them open or lower your gaze. Be aware that the intention is not to fall asleep. The intention instead is to fall awake. And if you find yourself getting sleeping in this or any other meditations, then perhaps just adjust your position a little. Or if your eyes are closed, open your eyes for a little while. Now begin by noticing your breathing. Not something we would normally be aware of until our attention is drawn to it. Something we just take for granted. Where will you notice it? Where it enters your nose or mouth maybe, or perhaps in your abdomen. This is a really good place to notice it. Perhaps by placing a hand over your abdomen, you may notice what seems like a gentle rise or expansion as you breathe in, and lowering or contraction as you breathe out. Continue just noticing your breathing for a little while whilst I go silent. Now, after a while, start to move your awareness away from your breathing and down your left leg, right down to your knee, and then to your ankle and your left foot, and then right to the big toe of your left foot. Take a moment and notice how it feels. Is it cold or warm? Now expand your awareness to your little toe and then all the toes in between. What sensations do you notice in them? If you don't notice any feelings, that's quite okay. Just be aware of whatever you notice or don't notice. Once again, being aware of your breathing. Imagine your breath traveling right down your body and down your left leg into your toes. When you breathe out, imagine your breath traveling back up your leg and up your body until it leaves your nose. From now on, do the same sort of breathing to each part of your body that you focus on. Now let your awareness extend into the whole of your left foot, including the ball, the sole, and the heel. Then the ankle, the sides, the upper part, and the whole of your left foot. Breathe right down into the whole of your left foot and then right out again. Now extend the gentle, curious and welcoming acceptance into the lower part of your left leg, up to your left knee, and then the upper part of your left leg. Perhaps your left leg may feel a little different to your right leg now. If so, just be aware of it. Now start to move your awareness down your right leg, right down to your knee, and then down to your ankle on your right foot, and then right to the big toe of your right foot. Notice how it feels. Is it cold or warm? Now expand your awareness to your little toe and then all the toes in between. What sensation do you notice in them? Once again, being aware of your breath, imagine your breath traveling right down your body and down your right leg and into your toes. When you breathe out, imagine your breath traveling back up your leg and up your body until it leaves your nose. Now let your awareness extend into the whole of your right foot, including the ball, the sole and the heel. Then the ankle, the sides, the upper part, and the whole of your right foot. Breathe right down into the whole of your right foot, and then right out again. Extend that gentle, curious and welcoming acceptance into the lower part of your right leg, up to your right knee, and then the upper part of your right leg. Now bring your awareness up to your pelvis, your hips, groin, genitals and buttocks. Once again, breathe down into that area and imagine that you are bathing that part of your body with refreshing and nourishing oxygen. Continue to extend your awareness up the trunk of your body into your lower back and abdomen. Be aware of your abdomen rising as you breathe in and contracting as you breathe out. Once again, breathe down into that area and notice any emotions or physical sensations and explore their meaning, if any, for you. Focus on breathing down into any discomfort or pain you may feel in any part of your body. Remember, you're not trying to achieve anything here. Let go of any attachment to making pain go away. Although, rather curiously, an attitude of acceptance and gentle awareness combined with breathing into pain may make a positive difference. Now move your awareness up into your chest and your upper back. Notice your breathing in your chest, and if you can, notice your own heart beating. Welcome any emotions and physical feelings, and listen for any messages that you think these sensations may have for you. Then move to the hands and arms. Notice of both at the same time, from the tips of your fingers right up to the shoulders. Once again, breathing right down to the fingertips of each arm and back up the body again. Now focusing your awareness back up into the shoulders and up into the neck, the jaw, noticing any tension there. And then into the rest of the face and up into the forehead, temples and scalp, often somewhere where tension is stored. All the time being fully mindful of all experiences in a slow and gentle experience. And finally arriving at the very top of your head. You might choose to imagine that you can breathe in from the very top of your head and let your breath flow right down your body to the tips of your toes and then right back up and out to the very top of your head. Take a moment. Allow that to happen a few times with awareness of your body being refreshed and renewed. Continue for a few moments to bathe in this sense of energizing refreshment and just remain in awareness of your body and breathing. Take a moment to reflect on the process that you've been undertaking and any sense of peace in full mind and body that it leaves you with. So take a moment to reflect and notice your experience of this body scan meditation. Now you can undertake this body scan again anytime you're comfortably able to. Now thank yourself for giving this time for yourself to experience this journey and contemplate your return to whatever you'll be doing shortly. So that's the body scan for you. This is your very first pass at going and following the guidance, my guidance or my words to various part of your body. As always, non-judgment, beginner's mind, trust, patience, attitudes are really helpful for doing this body scan meditation. There's no right, there's no wrong. He's just noticing and having an experience. Now the likelihood is that your mind would have wandered to different places, different thoughts about the past, thoughts what you might be doing next. You might be daydreaming. All those sort of things are perfectly natural. That's part of the developing that mind awareness and moving it to your body. So be kind to yourself, be compassionate if that happens to you. It happens to me all the time. It's just a matter of bringing our attention back to the body over and over again, and over time, just if you remember that arm fold, it becomes a new skill, a new habit. So be patient, have fun with it, be kind to yourself, and enjoy this process. Okay, so just a quick reflection on week one home practice. I called it home practice rather than homework because homework's got connotations of things we have to do, links to school days. If they weren't very good, then that's not necessarily a good attachment association. So this is just an encouragement from every session for home practice, things that you could do in order to develop your mindfulness abilities, skills, be more in the present moment, moving your minds in the here and now. As always, is just an invitation. I'd always encourage it, but like the attitudes, non-judgment, do the best you can, do what you can. This section in the live course is really just about sharing what people did that went well, what effects are people are noticing, what's starting to become a little bit different, and what you might do differently. It's also a way of sharing best practice. You know, what times is it helpful to do some practice? Is it first thing in the morning when you're fresh and before the day's taken hold, or is it at the end of the day when you're ready just to let go of the day and go off and drift off to sleep? So maybe that's a good time. So it's really just a way of sharing our experience of any home practice that we do. As always, you know, it's down to you. I won't be draconian, I won't be judging anybody, just a gentle encouragement, because if we want to start to develop a new habit, we have to do something different to break out of that automatic mode. But if you remember when we did that arm fold exercise, when we changed the way we do things, introduce something new to our lives, there's always that ouch moment, that difficulty. So we need to get through that ouch moment, and we can do that as a group together. And sometimes all we have to do is just encourage each other and maybe do something very simple, you know, just possibly just do a simple mindfulness, one simple mindful breath. That's demonstrating some practice, and then once we've done one, we might find ourselves wanting to do another. So this section is just really that general sharing and support for the group on their journey towards greater mindfulness. That's all it is. Okay, so enjoy that. On the next slide is just a reminder of the practice, the home practice that was suggested at that first session, and I think it was to do the breath meditation, focus on the breath 3 times, do some mindfulness eating, just like when we did that raisin meditation. Just eat your meal a little bit mindfully, slowing down, noticing the textures of the food, the flavor of the food, maybe the smell of the food. Just building that informal practice into our everyday, and also extending it to other behaviors, maybe making that cup of tea, brushing that teeth, doing the ironing, whatever we're already doing, just adding that sprinkle of mindfulness to it. And because, you know, just like they say, small acorns, from small acorns big oaks grow. So it's just that encouragement to take small actions often. So now we're going to move into a little bit about noticing our thoughts and our feelings exercise. Notice our thoughts and feelings, because we've been focusing on our bodies, doing a body scan, focusing on our breath, starting to move our attention to the present moment. And what we will notice when we are in the present moment, now we have thoughts, feelings and moods that we live by, and these things are normally automatic. So by becoming more aware of them, noticing them non-judgmentally, beginner's mind, patience, trust, and all those attitudes, we can detach ourselves from those thoughts and maybe allow them to resolve themselves. So this exercise is really for, in a live event, is for me to read out this very simple passage, invite people to imagine it was happening to them right now, so they're stepping into this scenario. And the passage goes, you're walking along a familiar street. You see someone you know on the other side of the street. You smile and wave. The person makes no response, just doesn't seem to notice you. Walks past without any sign of recognizing your existence. So I'll read that out to the group and get them just to notice their automatic, authentic reaction and to explore that. So maybe do that for yourself. Just notice what you notice when I read that passage. No right, no wrong. Just noticing and being with whatever arises. So what thoughts and feelings came to mind when I read that passage? You know, when we look at thoughts, they're words and sentences that go through our minds, maybe pictures, images that describe what we're thinking. And then we have the feelings, which are like shifts in our emotional state, how we experience the thoughts through feelings, our reaction to those thoughts. So we've got two very distinct areas. So part of the mindfulness practice is just making that distinction, focusing on the thoughts and the feelings that are associated. By doing that separation, we start to become more aware, more present with what's going on, rather than being lost in those thoughts and feelings. So just to make that exercise a little bit easier, or maybe give you some food for thought, here's some examples of what people in the past have thought about that passage. For example, Sue, she was probably preoccupied with something. I hope she's okay. So that's the thoughts that went through her mind, and the feeling around them is concern for the person across the road. Whereas Bob, she didn't even acknowledge me. I wonder what I did to cause that. So that's his thoughts, and the feelings associated with it. We're worried, you know, what have I done? I'm sure we've all had those feelings sometimes. Okay, Tony, how on earth did that happen? Okay, and that's really curiosity. You know, he's got a curious mindset. What was going on there? What happened? Sharon, she doesn't like me. Nobody really likes me. So that's her words, her thoughts going through her mind, and then they express themselves as a feeling of depression. You know, it's, what about me? What am I feeling? That feeling of depression. And finally, Kate, you must have seen me. Fine, if that's how you feel, do what you want. And that's more of an angry response. So it's curious. So same experience, same scenario for 5 people, each having a different reaction. Okay, so that really tells us that our thoughts aren't facts, they're just mental events, and they reflect what's going on with us, maybe stuck preconceptions, past experience of that person or that scenario, prior preconceptions, all that stuff that automatically appear in reaction to events in our lives. So mindfulness is about, you know, just being mindful, aware of those thoughts non-judgmentally, rather than getting caught up with them and believing them to be a truth, because they're really just mental events, and we can do something about them. We can change them once we're aware of them. So we've looked at our thoughts and feelings, that they automatically arise in reaction to situations, scenarios in our lives, and they're not necessarily true, just mind events, that reflect our preconceptions or past experiences. The things from the past showing up in automatically in the here and now. What can also affect us and compound, make things worse, is our mood. If we're angry or tired, anxious, worried, what we see and what we think is affected by those moods. So if we've got maybe a negative mood going on, then our thoughts become negative and we spiral down. And the opposite is true as well. If we thinking nice and positive, optimistic, we're well rested, then we have different thoughts and feelings in reaction to those events in our lives. So moods are really important. It's something to be mindful of. Okay, something to notice, another element to be aware of and mindful of, so we don't get sucked in automatically to our thoughts and feelings, which typically come from the past. Okay, so here's the good news. Even though those thoughts and feelings arise in a moment to reactions to scenarios and situations, they are really things from the past, things that we've experienced in the past, things that we have preconceptions about. Now, in the past, would have been automatically engaged with those thoughts and feelings, because the thoughts arise, they translate into our bodies as feelings, and because we are in our bodies, we tend to think those feelings are true. And what mindfulness does is to help us first be aware of those thoughts and feelings, so we're breaking that automatic reaction and then moving our attention into our bodies directly. Okay, so we're grounding ourselves in relation to those thoughts, so we're no longer automatically engaging with them. We've got the strength of being grounded, which is a big element of mindfulness, as you discover in following sessions. So when we ground ourselves, we have the strength to notice and not necessarily be affected by those thoughts and feelings. So that is really very good news. Okay, so let's put everything we've learned from that exercise together in the form of a story. So I want you just to take a moment, maybe just get yourself nice and comfortable. If it's appropriate, close your eyes. If not, just keep your eyes open, maybe lower your gaze, but just allow yourself to fully explore the story as I read it out to you, and see what elements of mindfulness are embedded in the story. So here's the story. Just let me read it out to you. Once upon a time, there was an old farmer who had worked his crop for many years. Now one day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbours came to visit. Such bad luck, they said sympathetically. Maybe, the farmer replied. The next morning the horse returned, bringing it with it 3 other wild horses. How wonderful, the neighbours explained. Maybe, replied the old man. The following day his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbours again came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Maybe, answered the farmer. The day after, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. The neighbours congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. Maybe, said the farmer. So just take a moment and reflect on that story and think about how the farmer was exhibiting a mindfulness attitude. Just take a moment to do that and pause this video. Now that you've had time to think about it and maybe write down some impressions, the mindfulness elements of the story, let me just share them with you. First one's non-judgmental. Whatever happened, the farmer was non-judgmental. It was okay, it's happened. It could be good, it could be not so good. So he took a more non-judgmental attitude. Another element of mindfulness, which is really quite powerful, and I've written it down here as we can't judge any event as an end. Typically, when we have these experiences, we conclude our judgments around it and consider it to be a true judgment, when in fact it might not be. Breaking a leg could be a positive, like the story says. The story talks about the army bypassing the sun, so we just don't know. It's just nice to have that open acceptance of what's happening. I'm sure in the past you've had not so good events in your lives. At the time they felt terrible, but longer term on reflection, you might have even considered them a good thing. Maybe something that stopped you making a mistake or taught you something. So we never really know what the event can bring. So it's having that non-judgment, that beginner's mind, that open-hearted acceptance of what's happening. Like the third point says, there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. We can start afresh, beginner's mind, instead of being stuck with what happened the previous day. So it's encouraging that beginner's mind. And it says here, good or bad, there's million effects that can come from that event. We just don't know what the subsequent consequences are as a result of that event. So it's useful just to be accepting it's happened and move on without attaching any meaning, hence the non-judgmental approach. And obviously the 7 attitudes, they all support the farmer who is non-judgmental, exhibited acceptance, trust that things will work out all right, patience, letting go, and beginner's mind. All those attitudes were exhibited in that story. So that's what I'd encourage anybody doing this course, is just to have that attitude. Whatever happens, it's happened. Maybe good, maybe not so good, who knows. It's just having that open-hearted, I don't know, mindfulness approach. So now I'd like to invite you to another meditation, a final meditation in this section. It's called the breathing space meditation. So this is a meditation. Its intention is to create that breathing space. When those thoughts and feelings arrive, just to help us be a little bit more present and create that breathing space so we can maybe think more clearly, not get automatically engaged with our thoughts and feelings. So this is a really powerful meditation that helps that process. It gives us something to do in reaction to those thoughts. We've already got the body scan, we've got the breathing meditation. This one is specifically designed just to create that breathing space so we can think more clearly. And it can be thought of as a tree. The metaphor that comes alongside the breathing space meditation is that of a tree or an hourglass. You remember at the top you've got the tree with all the leaves, that's all the thoughts, the birds, the wind blowing along. That's our current situation when we engage with our thoughts. So we're firstly bringing our attention to those thoughts. Then you've got the trunk, which is when we focus on the breath. So we're moving our attention away from those thoughts into our bodies, into our breath, which is the trunk, and then into the roots that ground us nice and solid. That's where we re-engage with our bodies. Okay, so our thoughts have an effect on our bodies, as we talked about before. So we're going to notice them, so create a little bit of distance. Then we're going to put our attention onto the trunk, onto our breath. So we're gaining back presence, control, and then we're bringing our attention back into our bodies. Okay, so it's a way of transitioning from thoughts that affect us to the here and now, to be in the present moment. So that's the meditation. That's the metaphor associated with it. Once again, I'll read it out to you. So I'll encourage you, invite you to step into this meditation if it's right for you, as always. So get yourself nice and comfortable, and I'll read this out to you now. Okay. So firstly, would it be okay to close your eyes for a little while now, or simply lower your gaze and soften your focus? Expansive awareness, focusing on our thoughts. Notice what you're feeling in this moment, physically and emotionally. What do you notice about your posture and how your posture feels? Take a moment to notice that. Do you feel particularly comfortable in any way? If so, where is this? Which part of your body are you feeling comfortable with? Be curious about what thoughts you're aware of going on through your mind at this moment. So take a moment to be curious. It could even be about this meditation. Now, can you place a little distance between you and your thoughts? Try and observe them non-judgmentally and in a detached way rather than being caught up in them. So you just try and do that now. Just be the observer of your thoughts and emotions as best you can. Narrowing into breathing. Narrow your attention now to inside yourself and into your own breathing. So move your attention to your own breathing. Bring your attention down to your breathing and a gentle rise and fall of your abdomen. Remember, you're not trying to change your breathing in any way. Just simply be aware of it in a friendly, open way. It will, of course, be quite natural for your attention to wander away from your breathing. And if this happens, just notice where your attention has gone and gently lead it back to your breathing again. Expanding awareness. Now allow your awareness to expand once again from your abdomen into your whole body. If you can, notice a feeling of breath breathing into your whole body. Now, as it happens, your whole body does breathe through your skin. See if you can be aware of a sense of wholeness and completeness in yourself, fully accepting and non-striving. Okay to be just who you are at this moment. So take a moment to be who you are at this moment, without judgment, non-striving, beginner's mind, trust, patience, and let it go. So I hope you like that meditation. I think is very powerful because it gives us something to do when we are lost in that thinking, feelings, all that stuff that can grip us. It gives us something else to do, and it's quite simple as well. It's not that complicated. It's just really noticing the thoughts, stepping away from them a bit, redirecting our awareness to our body, and then expanding it out into the rest of our body so we're anchored in the present moment. So it's really can also be thought of as a recovery meditation when we do get lost. And we will get lost in our thoughts and feelings as a way of coming back to ourselves. So have fun with it, enjoy doing it. It'll be part of suggested home practice, which I'll be talking to you about very shortly. So we've come to the end of session number 2, and here's some home practice guide. This is just a suggestion of what would be helpful for you to do over the next week, so you can be developing your mindfulness practice from the moment we finish all the way to the next session. But as always, this is just an invitation that you can do, and a guide of what will help in a very gentle way build out mindfulness stuff, because I appreciate, lives are busy, we've got lots of thoughts, feelings, emotions that we're engaged with. So it's just doing small practices that fit into every day can be really helpful. So the suggestions are, once again, only to whatever degree is right for you. Maybe first thing is practice the body scan meditation, 5 days in 7. It's relatively short meditation, about 10 minutes, maybe 13 minutes. All you have to do is just listen to that meditation and engage with it as best you can to start moving your attention back in your body and moving it throughout different parts of the body. So about 10 for 13 minutes. The best time is usually in the first thing in the morning, because we're fresh as life hasn't gotten away, so it sets us up in a nice positive way. Carrying over from session 1, do one informal mindfulness activity daily. So that's just whilst you're brushing teeth, making a cup of tea, just embedding that into your everyday practice. So that's the informal mindfulness. Practice the breathing space meditation. I think that lasts about 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, 3 times daily. Okay, and that's helpful for when we get lost in our thoughts and feelings and emotions. It's a great recovery meditation. Just something that you just have to listen to. Even the act of listening to it will take you away from what's happening, even if only for a few seconds. That's a great one. The suggestion, 3 times daily. Complete pleasant events daily diary. I'll talk to you a little bit about that and some other things, reflections in your diary, etc. But as always, it can seem quite a lot, so I'm not suggesting that you do all of that, but do what you feel comfortable and do what you feel able to do. Okay, maybe make it fun. Okay, and remember, we're not trying to get rid of anxiety, stress, all those things, even though they are a side effect. The goal is to develop mindfulness, because when we focus on that, moving towards what we want, all the other things come as a natural consequence. So really focus on developing mindfulness as an end in its own right, and that's quite an important point. So let's move on to the next slide, and this is slides about pleasant event diary, and this is linked to that thought and feeling exercise that we did earlier. Instead of focusing on a scenario, what I want you to do is to focus on a pleasant event that's happening in your life, positive things that happen. It doesn't have to be big things, it doesn't have to be massive events, just things that you thought were really nice. It could be somebody saying hello, maybe having a nice relaxation, nice cup of tea, anything that's pleasant. So it raises your mood. I mean, we already know that when we raise our moods, we make better choices, we can think more clearly, and we spiral up. So that's the function of that. And there's elements to the form to fill out. So I've given you a form, a template to follow. The first thing is to write down what the event was. Now we want to open it up a little bit into how did your body feel. So we're starting to focus on body. So when you had that compliment, how did your body feel? Okay, so we're moving our attention to the body, the event, our body. What mood and feelings did you notice? How did it make you feel? So we're starting to become aware of that. Okay, what thoughts went through your mind? You know, when you had that feeling, what thoughts did you come to your mind? And as a result of doing this little exercise, what did you notice about writing it down? Okay, so it's really about starting to make ourselves more present by focusing on the positive, creating a better mood, because when we have a better mood, we can relax, and when we're more relaxed, we're more able to be in the present moment. So that's the intention behind that. It's where gratitude diaries come in, those sort of things. And this has got some other elements just about noticing the body, noticing the mood, and noticing the thoughts. So we're taking those elements and just splitting them out. So we've got distinct things to look at, being aware of those three things. So I'd encourage you to do that diary. Often the best way to do it is when it arises in the moment, rather than thinking, okay, I really like that, I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to do it at home when I get home. You know, it's not always possible to do it in a moment, but it gives you a fresher, more real experience to write up. But both are good. Just some options and ways of thinking about it. So that's the end of session 2. I hope it's been helpful. And it's built on session 1. And next week we're going to move into maybe some movement, having mindfulness around our movement, moving our hands and our wrists, and just putting our attention to the movement element of the moment. See you next time.